Hey, what's up, nerds? Paul here at Radio Free Hammer Hall, and I wanted to talk to you today about um, something kind of crappy that just happened to me recently, and just kind of do a PSA and hopefully help some other people out that might run into things like this. So, what had happened was I, like many other people, sell things on eBay. As I find things in the house that I just don't need anymore, or hobby stuff that I'm kind of rotating out of. I just put it up on eBay and sell it. Usually, it's small items at a time. In this particular case, I ran across an old Magic the Gathering playmat from like 1994. That was like an original print run of the two-player playmats, if anybody's familiar with those. Um, and so that ended up selling on eBay for about 250 bucks. And I sent it off, thinking everything was okay. And the buyer then claimed that he received a different item than what I had listed in the listing, a different item than what I had sent him. And what he had showed was completely different. It was an anime Yu-Gi-Oh playmat, like 180 degrees different in product, in the same category of what it could be. So, um, naturally, I contested it because it was definitely wrong. So this guy was definitely trying to commit fraud on eBay, and I don't know how much people look at eBay's terms and conditions and their money back guarantee and all of those things, but they are very, very strongly weighted in favor of buyers. So even though once eBay stepped in to help arbitrate the situation, there was very little I could do at that stage. And from all the research that I did, there's almost nothing at all you can do to prevent eBay from issuing the refund, even if it's like really obvious that it's a fraud. So, with that, I started searching around and trying to figure out what I could do to appeal this decision, get it escalated to somebody else, and get it like really looked at by a real person. Because once that I submitted the information that I had to eBay on the original arbitration of the dispute, um, they turned it around in like 5 minutes and said, no, we're refunding the buyer. So they basically didn't look at it. Um, so it took me a lot of searching around, and I got frustrated. I tweeted at eBay. I looked at forums. I looked in all different places. eBay's own help stuff did not direct me to the right places to actually um, get a review or an appeal of the decision. So, what I ultimately ended up doing that was the thing that finally worked was actually sending an email to eBay. And right now, even trying to get through on the phone to eBay is very difficult. I tried to call PayPal because I made the transaction through PayPal. And PayPal, thanks to COVID-19, their customer service department's completely closed down and they're not accepting any phone calls at all. So PayPal was going to be no help to me. And at that point, since PayPal and eBay are owned by the same company, I just assumed that eBay was going to be in the same boat. So I went straight to their email assistance, which is if you go into the help section, when you're looking at the menu in eBay, if you go down to help and then you scroll all the way down to the bottom, there is an email us option. I took a shot in the dark and tried this. And ultimately, that was the thing that got me moving in the right direction. I stated what the problem was, that I had a buyer that was abusing the money back guarantee policy to commit fraud. I presented the evidence that I had, and they replied back with, here's some additional things, like additional information that we need. I did that. They responded back with, okay, here is like a statement form. You say, here's your name, here's your account information, um, the reason you're disputing the transaction, sign, date, send that to eBay by email. And within about like 10 minutes, I actually got my money refunded back. So I was really happy with the turnaround. It sucks that it was that hard to actually figure out how to get an appeal. Like eBay seems to be making this very difficult to actually do. So I really had to do a lot of research and take some shots in the dark, which is really why I'm doing this video. I want the information out there on how people can protect themselves and, actually, it's not entirely 100% oriented around protecting buyers. If you're a seller and somebody is defrauding you, you have recourse. You do have the ability to get that opinion overturned and get your money back. It's just really hard to do. And in the process of doing that, they're going to refund the buyer first, and then you're going to jump through hoops, and then you're going to get your money back. And at that point, I'm not sure if that money comes from the buyer that committed the fraud, or if that's just eBay throwing in their money and making it go away. So just some tips for you on what to do to prevent this, and the kind of evidence that I was able to actually show eBay that convinced them of what was going on. So the big thing for me was that the item that was shipped out was a significantly different weight than the item that was sent back to me by the buyer. So I was able to demonstrate that by keeping my receipt from the post office. That receipt has on it the destination address, and it has your tracking number and the weight of the package. So that's all the things that eBay is going to need to know to verify that that is, in fact, the correct receipt that you're showing, and it shows the weight of the package. Once I got the returned package from the buyer, I was able to throw that on, an ordinary kitchen scale that most of us have, and demonstrate that that item that was returned was actually much heavier than the item that was shipped. And like, that's just not possible. Like even when I took the item out and weighed that, just the item itself that was returned weighed more than the whole package that I had originally shipped out. So in that case, it was pretty obvious that the buyer had done something shady here, that he had switched the items out and sent back something different. So what I definitely encourage people to do is, if you have more expensive items that you're selling on eBay, always make sure to keep the receipts. Some people I have seen recommend using insurance on the package. I don't know if that's going to do you anything for buyer fraud, but that is one option that you have there. Requiring a signature for receipt, that will prevent another type of buyer fraud, which is when they simply claim that they didn't get the item, or that the item was stolen off their doorstep, something along those lines. So if you require signature on receipt, that will prevent some possible buyer frauds. And the big thing is just keep a cool head. Get all of the information that you can. The other thing that I did was, in correspondence with the buyer, I got the buyer talking, which is colossally dumb of him to do in the first place. Um, I kind of baited him out. The account that he had used had no prior transactions, which is really a red flag for somebody committing fraud. So in doing that, I pointed that out to him. Um, and he said, "Oh yeah, well, this is just a personal transaction for myself. I'm a professional seller, and I, wanted to use a separate private account to keep stuff segregated." So there we have another red flag that you have someone using two different accounts on eBay. It could be perfectly legitimate to use multiple accounts, but if you have an account with no prior transactions, then that is immediately a red flag, shady. He's saying he has another account. He also, when I confronted him with the fact that I had the receipt from the post office, I told him, weigh the package and show me. He refused to weigh the package, claimed he didn't have a scale. Uh, I later pointed out, oh, by the way, you're a professional buyer or a professional seller. How do you not have like a scale or a home mail meter? Like, this is a very normal thing that people have. And he didn't have any reply to that at all. eBay appears to have taken that into account because they very quickly refunded my money once I actually got somebody to look at it that was, a real human that had some autonomy. Um, One thing also that's very important when you email eBay initially, um, I noted in that email that I had attempted to find where I needed to for um, making an appeal of that transaction and was not able to find it. And so please consider this email my appeal of the transaction. That I think is also one of those things that's going to sort that email out to the right person at eBay. So you want to, be professional, get the message across, send them all the information you can. I sent them a ton of pictures. I directed them to my message conversations with the buyer and detailed out the things that I had gotten the buyer to say in talking to him. Which, if you're going to commit fraud, keep your mouth shut. Like, that it's very easy to get people to say stuff that they don't mean to say when you get them talking. When you start confronting them with things and getting them to respond to you. Um, I was really surprised that this guy responded to the number of messages that I had sent him, but it certainly helped my case. So try to keep the buyer talking, get them to spill their guts as much as you can. Um, ask sort of indirect questions that give you telling answers, and just go straight to emailing eBay and tell them everything that happened. There's like a 20,000 character limit on your email to eBay. So you can really get the whole of the information in there. Make sure that you clearly tell them that you are appealing a refund decision, include the item number, the transaction number, all of those things, all of the identifying numbers that you can for the transaction. Include that in your email so they know exactly where to go. And that should hopefully get you off in the right direction. There's going to be some transactions that are very difficult to overturn. When you don't have some kind of clear evidence, like the weights of the packages were very different. Um, if you're selling cards for collectible card games or baseball cards, things like that, those things weigh very little to begin with. And one baseball card weighs the same as another baseball card, at least in anything that's going to be measurable by a normal scale or mail meter. So you're going to be in trouble with that in particular. But a lot of other items, you know, My focus of this channel, if you're selling miniatures for tabletop games, board games, all of those sorts of things, that stuff is going to definitely be hard to match the weights on. And that is a very easy way to demonstrate that what was sent back was not what was sent out. So that's all I got for today, folks. Hopefully, this PSA is going to be useful to some people. Um, Also, just a final note, you need to do this stuff quickly with eBay. They have time restrictions for appeals and dealing with problems. So as soon as it comes up, deal with it. Unfortunately, if you had a transaction in the past and you're just getting this information now, unless it was like within the last maybe few weeks or month, you're probably shit out of luck on that. But hopefully, this can prevent some bad experiences for people in the future and stop you from getting, frankly, robbed. This is actually a really serious issue. It's technically mail fraud and wire fraud. Both of those things are punishable by up to 20 years in prison, as well as fines and penalties. So, buyers doing this stuff on eBay is a major problem. And if you really wanted to press the legal issue, you could get people thrown in jail for it. The odds of actually getting um, law enforcement to act on it when it's a small transaction might be difficult. But if you're dealing in thousands of dollars of transaction, uh, they might sit up and pay more attention than a couple hundred. So, anyway, folks, that's enough of me rambling for right now. Hopefully, this was helpful to you all, and I'll see you all later.